I want to talk a little bit about something that's called normalization. We use it in the data science world, especially in mapping, when we want to create what's called a choropleth map. And I think that this concept is something that would make Sparklet Warz in Upland so much better. And in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to talk a little bit about some Olympic medals. So on my screen, I have this table that consists of the number of medals that have been won by country over the years, and it's just ordered alphabetically. Now, a lot of times at the Olympics, you'll see these reports, of which countries won the most, and a lot of times you'll see like the United States, China, England at the top of these medal counts. And I can show that here. If I sort by my total all column and go from largest to smallest, you can see United States, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, China, all of them right there at the top. And it makes you feel really good if you're a citizen of the United States to be like, hey, we're the best, we're at the top of the medal count. But there's a little bit of a problem with this, because what this really just shows is here's a country that has the resources and a large number of athletes that are really good at their sports. And so if we use normalization, it will help us to understand this story just a little bit better. So I've taken a second to map this out, and I took all of those medal counts and made it show this map that gives you an idea of where are the countries that have won the most medals. And it's glaring that the United States is the biggest medal winner. But in order to normalize this, what you do is you take something like population or land area and you divide those total numbers by this field that helps you to normalize it. So that's what my second map here is I took the number of medals divided by the number of people in that country to get the second map. And all of a sudden, it's like the United States really doesn't have much to say when it comes to a normalized number of medals that have been won by the number of people that live in the country. What you don't see here on this map is that I need to zoom into this little tiny country called Liechtenstein, and they actually are the highest when we normalize this data. And so what happens here is when you normalize the data, it makes it so that a smaller country or an entity that doesn't have as many resources or whatever, if they do something that is noteworthy, they actually start to show up as something that is competitive. So I've created a little spreadsheet here that talks about 3 teams. No coincidence here, right? And what this shows is that there's 3 teams, and it shows the total points. And obviously team 1 is the best because they scored the most points. But if we were to come into this and we were to normalize some of this data, what we might do is we might come in here and say, well, how many players were on each team? So I've created some additional data here to say, there's 52 players on team 1, 45 players on team 2, 24 players on team 3. And if we come in here and we say we want to normalize this score to see maybe which team performed the best based upon the number of players that they have. So to do that, you're going to take your total points and you're going to divide that by the total number of players on each team. And this will show us that team 2 maybe had the most points per player on the team. This isn't always necessarily the best way to do this, because what can happen is in a game like Sparklet Warz, you might get somebody to join another team who isn't going to actually participate, and you can mess up with the scores that way. So in that situation, what you might do is you might come in here and you might say, well, how many active players were there on each team? And let's just say, that these were the numbers that were given of the number of active players on each team. And so then you would take that and you would say, okay, well, let's normalize by the active number of players. So again, you'd come in here and you'd say, what was the total points divided by the total number of players that actually played the game and contributed, and you might set like a minimum standard so that you don't get some standard deviation outliers that, if they were way high or way low, you can normalize based upon like a subset rather than just everybody. But in a game like Sparklet Warz, you would want to calculate everybody that played, at least beyond a certain number of points. So again, you might calculate that, and what you see here is that this team down here that's the lowest number of players, the lowest number of points, I mean, it just kind of goes hand in hand. You have fewer players, you're going to score fewer points. But when it comes down to it, this third team here actually had the highest number of points per active player on their team. And so this might just be something that I think Upland should consider when it comes to something like Sparklet Warz, because what this would do is it would allow you to have unbalanced number of players on teams, and the factions, you could then join whichever faction you really want to join, the one that you identify with the most, rather than trying to balance this out and stopping the cells of passes. It just makes it so that you can truly be on the team that you identify with, and you know that whatever efforts you put in, it's actually going to count on that final score. Because let's say we did that, but we didn't normalize the scores, and you ended up with like 15 players on the Pirates team, and 300 players on the Cyborgs team. Like, obviously the Cyborgs are going to score way more points in that scenario. And another thing that this would address is the fact that the Pirates map assets didn't sell out this last go round. This would allow for those Pirates that actually did purchase things to be able to play and to actively participate. Obviously they're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage because those didn't sell out, and maybe those ones that are for the other teams would get sold to the active players. But this is just something that I think would be beneficial to the community as a whole when it comes to Sparklet Warz, and make it a little bit more of a balanced effort, and I think it would add a level of fun to the game. So hopefully you guys will consider it.